Hello everyone, we're back once again for another tech talk, and it is time to go through the comments of the last video. So if you want your stuff talked about when it comes to, of course, the Twitch stream and then obviously the video, make sure to leave comments discussing general things or discussing stuff or questions or whatever, really. Like, you can kind of put anything in there and we'll have a look at it. The event's going on right now, so we're going to be doing the event, but we're going to be playing Naval, just because, it's easier to do, and we can kind of show how quick you can get it done if you really, want to, even while distracted, chatting about other ideas. So that'll be the idea. I do need to just make this slightly smaller. There we go, because then the actual game will work, and nothing will go wrong, hopefully. Right, there you go. Simple as. So, let's get through it. We obviously have the timestamps from Taki-chan. Fantastic work once again. Thank you very much. Heard that he was enjoying Starfield. Would like to hear opinions on stuff like Starfield, by the way. Obviously, it's nice to hear about other games. I'm going to be playing a bunch of other games once we get this battle pass sorted out, because, well, as everybody needs a break once in a while, so I think we're going to delve into some RTSs and have a bit of fun. So nice to see other people enjoying stuff. Let's get into the first comment after the timestamp, and it is, of course, from Blinker. Hi, Tech. Hi. I had an idea for those awkward trainer light attack aircrafts with poor fight characteristics but powerful weapons. Uh-oh. I would suggest putting them in a folder at a BR that corresponds to the weapon systems but with higher multipliers for RP and SL. In that situation, they would be harder to play, but would get more rewards per action. It could be nice for more skilled players to help them grind, but also totally optional for less experienced pilots. Thanks for the comments and keep up the good work. Yeah, I agree. If they want to add them in, that's how you add them in. So you basically do what they've done. You know how a lot of people talk about Russian bias and all of that stuff? Go explain that to like the Su-25T or the Su-39, right? Like, those things are just getting blasted right now. Same with the Su-25BM. So the simple fact is, with those vehicles, is they are no good, because the flight performance of things is just way too good in that area, and also the systems that they are supposed to, kind of defend against, they can't always do it. So what you have is a situation now where you've got to a point where the weapon systems are so crazy, but the flight performances are not good enough, that the vehicles just can't, like, stand up to scrutiny, which is what's happening with the Su-25 and also what's happening with the Su-39. So if they want to add them in and overload their BRs, then I'm completely fine with it, because it'll mean that you can still use them in certain ground lineups, but also they won't just annihilate certain, like, air areas. So that, to me, is kind of the way to do it going forward. I would be completely fine with them doing something like that. But the thing is, even when that is the case, there's going to be situations where vehicles face these things, especially in a down tier, where they're just going to get canned and they're going to wonder what's going on. Also, it basically means that grinding out those vehicles is going to be pretty much impossible to do. Which is, like, that's the other thing. Why add something to the game which that people aren't going to be able to grind out, or they aren't going to be able to play, right? Because what's the point? That's a lot of development time for something that's not going to work. It's like adding, like, mine layers at that point, right? Like, why bother adding these things if nobody can play them, or wants to play them? So it's the reason why it's so much of an issue is, as we said before, it's a problem with how all this stuff, like, fits and how all this stuff works. And I'm sure there'll be people who will always be able to make stuff work, especially in specific game modes, but I honestly think it would just be better not to add them, because then you just miss all of these issues that may come in, right? Simple as. Well, that's the thing as well. You could kind of screw with their stock stuff. Nice to see you, Romania. Hopefully you're doing well. But yeah, you could screw around with their stock stuff to try and, improve them, right? So should be okay. So we have Away with you, Valbega. Hi, Tech. Hello. I'm happy to announce. Oh my god. Hi Tech, I'm happy to announce that my World of Tanks friends are finally starting to understand the pen paradox and thus achieved the first step to War Thunder Enlightenment. Now they only need to figure out the volumetric situation and learn where the weak spots are. Well, that's good. Let's go here. When it comes to updating old videos like the Shell one, I don't believe anyone normal would blame the creator if they're outdated. There will always be that weird minority who doesn't care to look at the data or context, but you can't really do too much about that besides muting them. I'm sorry for the following essay, but I need to share this with everyone thinking top-down mode for SPGs is a good mechanic. Here, let's just go on to this one. I see people talking about arty like in World of Tanks, and they think it's a good mechanic. It's not. I was an arty player back in the WOT days, and it was frustrating to say the least. I like being a team player, so arty was no-brainer, but even then it was bad. One in the beginning, you had the one-shot, one-kill / mish type of arty, where you could literally one-shot top-tier tank, or sometimes direct hit would just damage it. Then they tried to fix the arty, whereas one-shot fire destroy modules meta, where you were useless when it comes to damaging 99% of the time, but you were annoying as hell 100% of the time. If I wanted to be useful, I'd have to do an effort to look at the map for spotted vehicles and choose when my help would be needed more before waiting 1 minute for the next shot, or try to look for the enemy out so you could see where they fire from and counter them. I needed to also move after every shoot, or if the need arises in close games. Go for the cap and try to be like SPGs we have in War Thunder, but with worse accuracy, and that's me trying to play the game that are useful. But your average arty player just moving to the back of the map and sit there with the time match until they died, that's it. That was the average SPG player. I don't know why people have the illusion that the top-down SPG mode would be different in War Thunder. People would go to the back of the map and either be annoying for the entire game or die to cast for the light tank they knew how to flank. Thing that will become very common and thus make people spawn camp more just to kill the SPG, yay. I'm not even going to go into the whole implementing your mechanic problem. Basically, the reason why people want those types of mechanics when it comes to War Thunder is because they want to be able to shoot people and not have to get involved into the fight. The other thing is they are ex-World of Tanks players who want to just, once again, do exactly what they did in another game. It's the same people who want submarines, who played them in a one-off game somewhere, and now they think that submarines would fit really well into the game because they played Silent Hunter for 30 minutes and they like the idea of the submarine thing, but they just want to have some kind of broken thing or their experience in the game. As usual, when it comes to there's a bunch of minorities and stuff like that who generally want different things, but the idea, especially when it comes to older videos, that it is the minority of people that, you know, don't look at the dates or don't look at the times. No, unfortunately, it's the vast majority, because if it's an older video, people are seeking out that information to start with, so they're searching for it, and then when they watch it and they get confused about why the information is like it is, the only thing you can kind of say to them is, you know, because it's outdated. But, you know, they're looking for the information isn't there, so they get annoyed. Like that's just how it goes. But yeah, arty mechanics would be very stupid in War Thunder. I'm sure there'll always be advocates for things. The other thing you've also got to understand is there is this constant belief by many people who don't who believe in the whole idea that things have to constantly evolve, things have to constantly change. And this is actually something that we've seen in life in general as well. A lot of companies start believing this stuff, where it's straight up about it's straight up not just about like, oh well, we have to innovate, we have to change, we have to do certain things, and if we don't do the certain things, then other companies are gonna, you know, get ahead of us, which isn't really the case. Like, stuff like that doesn't really happen. If somebody makes a product and, you know, people really like it, they're not gonna stop liking it until somebody brings out a better product, right? Like, if you think about, like, a lot of restaurants, if you think about a lot of places like that, sometimes, like, a lot of them have been around making the same food for, like, generations, and people still enjoy it. And because there's nobody in the area who does anything similar, or has decided to do anything similar, then, yeah, it's not something that people really worry about. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know. And that would definitely break it. I'm completely out of ammo, by the way, so... Right. Sorry for the long rant, but seeing this idea 3 videos in a row gave me World of Tanks PTSD. Nonetheless, hope you're having a good week. Yeah, the week's good. Just focusing on doing the event, but everything's fine. You'll see the same ideas come out over and over and over again until they get implemented in the game, by the way. Like, this is something that, once again, there are people out there, a lot of people, who just want to see change all the time. So if they go, well, if this has been added, why is this not added? Or if they add this, why haven't they added this? Because it's, you know, it's interested in my thing. It's the dozer mentality, and I'm gonna do a video on this going forward. But we call it the dozer mentality because there was a guy when it came to the War Thunder forums who constantly asked for a specific plane. And then the plane came out, and he played it about 15 times, and then never played it again. And then he started asking for other stuff, getting added to the game. Now, there isn't just him who does this. There's actually a metric ton of people who do this. He's just the easiest way to point to because he was so aggressive when it came to his wanting it being added. So that's the thing you got to think about. There's just people who just constantly want new stuff all the time, and then when there is no new stuff, when there is like the kind of areas of the year where everything is kind of chill. So for example, like in end of January or July, you know, people just go nuts and then just start saying crazy things because, I don't know, ADD is unfortunately rife with people at the moment, especially with younger individuals, and there's no getting away from that. It's very sad. People can't enjoy the now, they're always looking to the future for the next best thing. So they just don't enjoy what they see in front of their face. So we have Eric Peterson. Can you discuss updating AirRB for more dynamic objectives to airborne full water maps? Carrier landings, takeoffs. I'd love more boat targets and water maps. I mean, if we actually added that stuff to RB, it would actually be a backward step because we have all those maps already in the game. The Japanese naval, or the Pacific maps, I should say, they all exist already. The reason why you don't see them a lot is because, first of all, getting full teams of Japan is not entirely the easiest thing in the world, and they made a change in the past, like a few years ago, where Japanese players can actually play with Americans. So before that point, what would happen is Japanese players would only go against Americans, and you would have these maps where basically it was just, you know, like what's the one, like they're still in the game, like you can still get them. It's the Battle of the Coral Sea, but what was the objective in Coral Sea, or before Coral Sea? Midway. So you have the Battle of Midway, but the problem is those maps are the most unbalanced in the game, like by far, because usually one side has to take off or the other side doesn't, or there's like AI objectives all over the place which can just end the game super quickly. So the idea of having these like full-on water maps, I mean, that's great, but first of all, you need everybody who queues up has to be in naval-borne vehicles, which, if we're honest, there aren't actually a metric ton in the game. Like, that's something that has to be understood. And then, even then, you have times where there aren't enough like space on the carriers for everyone to take off. How do you choose who takes off on the carrier first? Or how do you like sort any of those areas out? So yeah, the Pacific maps are very unbalanced. So I would not want more of those maps in. It just crucifies too many vehicles. at the end of the day. So it's a no from me. When it comes to actual revolutionizing RRB, it's pretty simple. You just add more objectives. I've always wanted a paratrooper mechanic, where a bunch of paratrooper planes come into an area and then they drop off. They drop off units. Maybe they could be seen as capturing a base. So they capture the base, and then after capturing that area, what you have to do is you have to destroy all of the people in the area, and then you don't lose like the tickets, or you gain tickets or whatever, depending on what side you're on. And that's how you would do that, right? So you'd have paratroopers which would go on specific paths and capture specific areas. You could add 1 million of these areas if you wanted to, and that's how you do it. Hey, Command Dotter, nice to see you. The other thing is supply lines. So right now, you could literally like create airfield and base supply lines. So once bases get destroyed, a supply truck set with AAs or with whatever gets like it appears. It appears from the airfield, and then it has to travel to where the base is, and then it resets the base, and then everybody gets access to the supplies, so therefore the base gets rebuilt. Right? You could easily do stuff like that, and it would be quite fun, I think, personally. I like those types of ideas, and basically just more moving targets. I think one of the key skills of specifically RRB is actually the ability to understand when it is a good idea to attack a player and when it is a good idea to not attack a player. So to go after AIs and kind of force the player out. So more movement and more mobility on the AI kind of does that. So I'd be kind of fine with that. Simple as. Hey Ketsu, nice to see you. Well, yeah, we have to do the event. I've done this for like the last 3 weeks because they keep adding stuff to do. But yeah, that's what I would do. No full water maps. You could have maps like not Saipan. Yeah, you could have maps like Sicily where they have like a naval area where there's a carrier and stuff. Like there's a few areas where they've done that with. Like I'd be fine with that. If they wanted to do it. But yeah, it's it just wouldn't really go very well if you just have the wrong types of vehicles. Like that's the biggest issue with stuff like that. I don't like getting on maps where it's like, oh, it looks like I'm useless now because I spawned in the wrong vehicle. The other thing they could also do is in RRB you have a lineup of vehicles, and you can choose which vehicle you want to bring along at the start of a battle. So it means that you're limited to that one vehicle, but if you spawn on a map, you spawn on a map where you can't, what's the word? If you spawn on a map where you're kind of useless with the vehicle you selected, you can always select another one. That may lead to abuse of people crew locking and stuff. But I think it would still be better. So we have Nick Robertson. Hey Tech, it's good to hear everything seems to be squared up for you in the real world. Honestly, it's refreshing to hear from a CC that the business of playing video games is not the be-all end-all investment for them. And I enjoy your more measured perspective in that regard, especially in times of apparent controversy when everyone is seemingly addicted to sensationalist rhetoric. I mean, yeah, like money's money for people. For me, I don't see it like that because, you know, I put a lot of effort into university and my actual proper job. So I don't need to do silly things and follow silly areas. I basically just don't need to lie to people about what's going on, like at the end of the day. Anyway, I'd like to get your take on the overpressure mechanic as it currently exists. Personally, I'm aware the system did replace the much resented, quite inconsistent and bizarre hull break mechanic, and I like the new system conceptually. However, getting destroyed by a BMP-1 in my ZSU 57-2 because a little BMP's heat pineapple, which impacted ground 2 meters away from my vehicle, overpressured my entire crew, is not greatly invigorating to witness. In practical effect, I think Gaijin went overboard with how overpressure is supposed to function, and the system is equally inconsistent and bizarre as hull break, just in different ways. Certainly not a game-breaking mechanic. I just think it needs to be refined to be more in line with how overpressure actually translates to injury and lethal effect personal in real life. And I think I can say with confidence that the M10 crew shouldn't be lethally overpressured if the vehicle's track is hit by 75mm heat from a Panzer IV, and the Object 279 crew shouldn't be lethally overpressured because of a 40mm both of fragment breach to the driver's hatch, as enjoyable as it used to see. It's not even that I have a raging hard-on for realism per se, it's just the system as it now exists functions in a manner that is so inconsistent and overtuned that it's annoying when it occurs. It certainly has disproportionately affected open-top vehicles in a bad way. The system, at this point, has been in the game for a while and very little adjustment from Gaijin since, and it seems to me another product of Gaijin's bad habit of implementing something into the game that is incomplete, imperfect, imbalanced, and then taking the excessive amount of time before touching it again in any shape or form. Your thoughts on the system, and would you change it? If so, how? Hey, it died. How I would change it? I mean, I think one of the best things, or one of the funniest things that Gaijin has done over the last period of time is they basically renamed a mechanic, which does exactly the same thing as it did previously, and now people are okay with it, compared to not being okay with it before. The overpressure mechanic works exactly the same way as the end hull break mechanic worked. When they removed the ability to hull break stuff with like AP rounds, that's basically how the overpressure mechanic works now. It kind of reminds me of when one of the Valve devs who worked on CS, we watched the video recently, but basically a bunch of people were constantly complaining about the fact that they felt the latency in the game. And, you know, their shots weren't landing where they were supposed to be landing and everything like that. So what the dev did is he artificially lowered everybody. Oh, sorry, what it said on the screen. He artificially lowered, like, what the ping number said on the screen by -50. So if you had 80 ping, it actually said you had 30 ping. And he did this during one of the tests, and pretty much all of the responses that he got was that the game felt really responsive, the game felt really nice, everything felt really good. But he didn't actually change anything in the game apart from he lowered what the ping value said. For me, that's what, like, Overpressure feels like. Overpressure does everything that Hull Break did, but because it's called a different name, it's completely fine. Like, even if you read all of the even if you read like all of the literature around like Overpressure when it was added in, it basically just works like Hull Break, apart from they removed the kinetic idea and then just kept the chemical, which is what Hull Break was by the end anyway. So they didn't really change anything. I think they just need to lessen the impact of certain explosives over a distance, and then everything will be fine. I'm fine with the mechanic as it is. The major issue I have with it is not actually like when tanks shoot other tanks with it, like if somebody wants to HE bomb somebody. The issue I have is when a plane or when a helicopter overpressures stuff like AAs, because it pretty much means, like, so mid-tier right now like is very cast dominant, and the reason for this is because all of the AAs are open topped apart from like the skink. So all you gotta do is land a bomb slightly close to the enemy AA, and it just pops like a you know, well, like a bomb. So it pops like a balloon, and that's what everybody's doing. Like they're running around with their cast stuff, and then just you don't even have to aim with like 1000-pounders, and they just die, right? So yeah, it kind of sucks. Hey, Holy Rune, nice to see you. I took notes. So I would just lessen the impact of it, or remove it from aircraft. I'm fine with tanks overpressuring other tanks, but the issue for me is the cast elements, which is a little bit crazy. But yeah, everything feels good. We're gonna go see Iron Maiden on Monday. Should be pretty fun. Love me some Iron Maiden. Run to the hill, run for your life. Should be good. I'll run for the hills. Right. Sorry, I just want to take out this guy's turrets first before anything goes on. Not really interested in him firing back at me, if I'm honest. There we go. If overpressure isn't there, what it would be? I mean, you could just not have the mechanic, but then the problem with that is light vehicles would be really, really powerful. Which they already are, so just make them even more powerful. Oh, there we go. Oh my god, there's another guy. Right. Let's just stick it in reverse. I'm gonna have to relax the things anyway. So this is Swinty5756. Hi Tech, just curious on your thoughts about adding changes to player levels in War Thunder, like increasing it from 100 to 1,000 or even 10,000, or a prestige system with certain rewards benefits like other games. Kind of crazy that a game as huge as War Thunder caps only level 100. Thanks, really enjoy the content as always. Hope you have a good day. Thank you. I will do. Hopefully you do too. I've made several videos on a prestige system, which I would want. You know, the idea basically would be when you hit what's the word? When you hit like the 100 cap, you just like the old like Call of Duties, you could go back to level 1, but on your profile, so like around this area, you get like a bronze banner, and then you get a silver banner, and then you get a tertiary banner, and maybe you get a title, and then they could just keep all of the old, like, you know how you get like certain things like getting to level 10 and then getting to level 20 and so on. They could just keep all that old stuff and just put a little banner in. Just something that's there to you know, kind of make you realize what's going on. So it should be nice. The other thing that would be good too is what's the word? What would be good too is if like, I don't think it should give like vehicles or anything like that, but maybe it could give you the opportunity to have some kind of mechanic where you could swap like certain items. Like maybe it gives you like a ticket every time that you do it, and then if you use the ticket, basically it means that you can swap like an old event vehicle for a new one, or so on and so forth. You could also do something where it like changes the hangar. That's obviously another one it could do. That would be quite nice to see. Like maybe you get something special in the hangar. Yeah, rentals as well, like something like that. Something that isn't like permanent and gives you an advantage over the other players, but something that just gives you, you know, something about. Doesn't have to be too crazy. So yeah, those could work. But yeah, I've made videos on this in the past. I made a few of them. It might be worth just typing in prestige, and then I'll probably have everything. Hey Teddy, nice to see you. So then we have the Guilty 11. Right, everybody's writing essays this time. Could we not? Right, so point and course. We've been through like five ones in 30 minutes, and everybody's writing a full-on dissertation, so I don't know what's going on, but maybe if we could have a bit more concise ideas instead of your shopping list. Let's just the guy just popped. So we have the Guilty 11. Hi Tech, hope you're doing well. I am. Hopefully you're doing too. My first ever suggestion in one of these videos, so let's hope it's not too stupid. It's not stupid, it's just long. Even though I occasionally enjoy shooting missiles behind hills, we can all pretty much agree that anti-tank missile carriers are in a pretty rough spot since you don't have any unique mechanics like scouting, artillery, etc. How about we can move one mechanic from light tanks to missile carriers, scouting or scout UAV, since they are usually staying still and further from these lines, maybe UAV would be perfect for them. This way they could actually have an effective way to help the team, other than just sit behind and hope for the prey to come. Also, a little side suggestion concerning those scout drones. How about some little reward for the spot something and someone kills that target? Something like if they accurately mark the enemy and the enemy is killed in the next 5 to 10 seconds, that scout would get assist or something. I had a game a couple of days ago where some random dude from my team did an amazing job with scouting UAV. I got 6 kills because he stayed behind and scouted the enemies around me with the UAV. I ended up getting a nuke in the battle, all thanks to him, and it felt bad since I knew the guy didn't get any reward from his amazing job. Please correct me if they actually do get rewards from scouting, since I don't really use the UAV myself. The idea, I think, of the UAV is so they don't specifically get awards from using the UAV, but the idea is if you know where the enemy is, you could maybe scout it as well. The other thing is people would just like ping that all over the map all the time. So you would have to give a cooldown to the ping at that point. And if they want to do that, like they can do that. Like I'd be fine with it. It would be okay. But at the same time, it would slow down pretty much all the gameplay. I think in general, SPGs at high tier, yeah, they should have given them the drones. But there aren't many SPGs at high tier. That's the things. The mid tier SPGs are the ones which have the most issues. But yeah, you could give them a mechanic that was in the game. You could swap the SP costs of some things. That might work as well. But yeah, all would work. Like, just depends on what they want to do. The ATGM carriers in general are in a pretty rough place. I'm just hoping that with the low sat edition, people can see how bad they are. So we can just go from there. Simple as. All right. Oh my god. So we have Morgan Jama 5085. Hi Tech. Hello. On copy paste vehicles. From my perspective, the uniqueness of different nations is and should be focused on tier 5 and below. The majority of players are probably not going to reach top tier. It's specifically the ground tech trees that I'm referring to. The current difference in pace of progression in aviation versus ground and naval is just odd to me. But it means that the only ground tech tree I've ever wanted to complete is the Swedish one. And currently I've spent a year and a half on that. I'm just touching 10.3. That is with premium accounts of vehicles. Now, the addition of the Finnish Soviet copy-paste last year just reinforced that. I do play different nations. I'm just never going to complete any other. So I guess I don't understand people's opposition to universally available vehicles at the higher tiers. Sorry for the long read. That's probably more of an opinion, not a topic. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. So the simple fact is the reason why people want unique stuff at high tier is because they want something to grind towards. If you make everything exactly the same at low tier, then there's pretty much no reason for people to ever like grind another tech tree if everything else is the same at high tier, right? So if everybody has a T72, then basically what ends up happening is there's no point in playing other nations apart from maybe like 1 or 2 vehicles that turn up, which usually aren't very fun to play anyway, and because they're off meta because everybody's playing the T72, right? So yeah, it's just not very fun for people to play, and people don't really enjoy it. So therefore everybody just plays 1 or 2 nations that have those things plus other ones. So you just end up in a situation where you only see 1 or 2 nations being played anyway. So all of the junk that you've added to those nations doesn't matter because you're never going to see them because they can get that junk in other nations plus better stuff. Which is why like these additions are good for nations like Hungary being added to Italy, because it adds some unique stuff and also adds a different player base to Italy, but also at the same time it doesn't fundamentally fix the fact that Italy does not have a lot to offer for people, even from its unique stuff. Like Italy, for example, has some of the most unique vehicles in the game. They have done for a long time, right? They have a metric ton of pretty interesting MBTs, light tanks, AAs. They have everything. People just don't care about the nation. So you have that, and then also at the same time you have now they've added a bunch of lineups to it. People still don't care. So the uniqueness is not the only thing that people care about. And the copy-paste stuff is not the only thing that people care about. So there's got to be other factors as well. And now it's time to actually move on to the proper conversation of why do people play nations? Why do certain people play certain nations compared to others? What draws people to different nations? And that is something which is a very tough conversation to have. And people instead just go for the, well, my nation is broken or X nation is broken, that's why people play it, right? So it's just a different conversation, and once we get all of these other conversations out of the way, like after 10 years of having the same conversations, we can then actually have the proper ones. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping it happens in the next few years once all of this copy-paste stuff comes in, so then we can start talking about what actually draws people to nations, instead of just like, oh well, they have, you know, unique vehicles. I think, personally, they're just going to keep adding stuff to nations over time. I don't think that changes. I think it's fine the way that they're doing stuff right now. I'd be kind of annoyed if they change the way that they're doing stuff, but it's not the only reason why people pick up stuff, so it's just how it is. But people care about unique vehicles because, as you saw with the Leo 2 PSO, as you saw with the SEP, as you even saw with, like, you know, the MiG-29 for Germany, people want unique stuff because they could just play other tech trees instead of grinding, you know, that one. And because the majority of people only use one tech tree or two tech trees because they either don't have time or they don't have the will to do other things, then you got to work out how to entertain all those people at the same time. So good luck, Godspeed. It's a tough world. But yeah, there's many conversations that we've never had because we're stuck on the initial ones. So hopefully when the community grows up a little bit more and, you know, we start getting rid of certain conversation topics, such as like the balance topic at top tier, or, you know, different topics that exist, hopefully then we can start actually nailing down good criteria for things to be added to different nations. Yeah, I don't think that'll happen for a while yet because of, well, people just wanting more stuff in for themselves. Then we have Aston Benga. Speaking of the A4K, it was a heavily modified Skyhawk that could compete with 4th gen aircraft such as F-18s and F-16s. This meant it could carry M9Ls, AGM-65s, GBU-16s, and the same radar as the F-16 Block 15. Do you think this could be an addition to the UK tree? UK? Well, what was it? What are its, like, that was ever used by the UK? Who used the A4K? Also, these rounds are just invisible on my screen. That's interesting. But yeah, I have no idea who used it, but sure. We should add it to everybody, and then we can have another vehicle, just like the current A4s in the game, apart from one of them. And also the Vautours now, and also the half of the Jaguars, and the F-105, and the Su-25s at high tier. We should add more of these things, so they can just be cannon fodder for people. Because we talked about, as we talked about previously, like, high-end weapon systems on bad platforms is something that has categorically been shown in game to not work. So let's just add more. Why not? So we have Hair Finger Snacks. Hi Tech, love the content, I love the tech talk. Good. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. Hopefully the event is going well for you. Question, because you mentioned gun marks, for me as a World of Tanks and War Thunder player, I'd love to have actual gun marks in War Thunder. Something like what World of Tanks has. And after they simplified the camouflage challenges in the new update, I'd love to have it like in the old challenges. 3, 6, 9, 12 rings for Germany and gun marks, etc. That would bring a new grind into that grinding game. I'd like to see it, but what's your and the community's opinion about it? Greetings from South Germany. The heights do. So I'm fine with it. I remember making a video about 8 years ago talking about gun marks, because I always thought there isn't really a way in War Thunder to show your proficiency with one vehicle. Like, people can look at your stat cards, I suppose, or, you know, they can do stuff like that, but there's no actual visual way to show that. The camouflages can be bought, right? So with the gun marks, it's something that can't be bought, like, that can kind of show, you know, how much you play a vehicle, or, you know, how good you are with a vehicle. That just doesn't exist in the game. So I think it would be very fun to have some kind of system in the game which actually kind of shows somebody's proficiency on a vehicle at a given time, and that would be gun marks, right? Because that's how they work when it comes to the game, or the tanks. So hopefully they could bring a similar system into War Thunder, which would just kind of show, you know, this player over here worked very hard to get this, and it looks pretty cool. Much better than the skin or anything like that, because it could be on every vehicle. I don't think you should have the opportunity to turn it off, though. That's another thing. So if it's on the vehicle, it's on the vehicle. It stays. So I don't like the idea of people masquerading. Hey Alex, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good today. But yeah, stuff like that would work well. Or just, you know, maybe something like in a portrait, or maybe a special skin, just something just to say, hey, look. Or maybe, I don't know, like you could have like a silver or a golden portrait around the vehicle when it's in your lineup. Like that could be interesting. Kind of show it off. Yeah, there's plenty of stuff that they could do. Hopefully they do in the future. It'd be nice to see. And we have Type 10. Hey TEC, why is the Japanese Apache at 10.7 while the other Apaches are at 11.0? Type 75 SPH shall rise again. Also, any tips on a carrier smoothly without breaking your landing gear? Have a nice day. The reason why the Japanese Apache is at 10.7 is because Japanese players are trash. No, it's probably because it's missing something that the other Apaches have. Whether it is a weapon system, whether it is like, you know, some specific mechanic. Usually it's missing something which makes it different. I think on the vehicle it might be the radar, if I remember correctly, but there's something which is different. There's something which is different in its setup. Thank you for the subscription, Rocket. Thank you for continuing to support the channel. It's very much appreciated. Thank you very much. It's missing both internal and additional missile approach warning system. Yeah, there you go. I knew there was something. So, yeah, they don't just make these decisions arbitrarily unless it's based on, you know, how well people are playing in these things. But with helicopters, that doesn't seem to have affected them too much over the years. So, yeah, there you go. When it comes to landing on a carrier, the thing that you want to do is you want to land backwards first. So, how can I put it? Obviously, you have to get the speed right, you got to get the flaps right, all of that stuff, right? Some people find it easier to land without flaps because, you know, you don't get, like, dragged up. But one thing you got to get right is just before you land, obviously, you're supposed to have a hook, whether it's an arrestor hook or whatever on the back. You've got to, no, I'm out of ammo. You've got to do something very simple, which is just before you hit the ground, a lot of people approach like this. Just before you hit, you push up the booty. So the booty hits first, and then the front comes down. This means that the arrestor hook hits, and then also at the same time, it means that your back wheels hit first. So that's pretty much it. That's the way that you do it. The other way is just break your landing gear if you really need to, but I would honestly say that's not the greatest idea. You know, you want to at least kind of show you can kind of land on a carrier. So yeah, that's what I would do. Oh god. But yeah. What was the other one? Oh yeah, the Type 75 SPH, wasn't it? Oh yeah, or Rise Again. Well, the thing is, it never rose in the first place. Like, they've added a ton of mechanics to that thing to try and make it useful. I mean, it's definitely more useful for when they added it, but it's still not a fantastic vehicle at all. It's very, very bog standard, is probably the way I'd put it. I think out of the SPHs I've played, it was one of the worst, but also, as I said, it was the one which was one of the first to come in. So it had all of the terrible mechanics and none of the niceties. Then we had Sinawio 866. Hey TEC, hope all is well. I was wondering what you think about the links and how it's doing at Sen 7. I think also how 11.7 ground RB is right now. I don't really have any thoughts on ground RB at that BR because I just haven't played it in a while. Like, if I'm honest with you, I haven't really been that interested in playing that high tier. We do have some things to play at those tiers, and we will do eventually. It's just at this moment in time, because they added so many mid-tier vehicles this update, I've been focusing on the mid-tier stuff, and it's been going very well. We've ground out a lot of stuff, and it's been quite nice. So hopefully going forward, I'll be back to the high tier soon. I was playing a bit of high tier air the other day, which was quite fun. It was an enjoyable experience, so maybe we can just do that. And the other thing is that the Lynx, I feel, was one of those vehicles that was once again overhyped. The thing that makes the Puma strong and why it went from 8.3 to like whatever it is now is a simple set of reasons. The first one, the gun is obnoxious and you can fit the APF SDS into areas where other guns can't go in. Number two is the simple fact that it's super survivable because you can just have the turret out and then that's it. Right? Same with the Striker, right? The reason why the Striker went up in BR is exactly the same reason, which is you can just have your turret out, and if you get shot, hey presto, you don't die. Like, it's really fun. So basically, what happened with the Lynx is you have people in the turret of the Lynx, and then also you have people in the turret of the Lynx, which is no good. And then also you have the ammo belt right there as well. So there's no real surviving once you get shot in the turret. So you can't go like, I suppose you'd class it as hull down in that and survive. So for me, that's been the big issue with the Lynx going forward. And I don't know why there was so many German players who wanted it, because it looked like a trash can when it first came out. Like, hopefully going forward it can be fun. I obviously haven't played it because I've been focusing on the rest of the tech tree, so you know, don't take everything I say as the full thing, because I haven't had a chance to sink my teeth in it. But the fact that I haven't heard anything about it, the fact that it's at the highest echelon of good old ground, but it's in the Italian tech tree, I've got a feeling that it's really not going to take over the game. So if it was insanely good, then I would have at least heard something about it. So yeah, I don't know if other people have made reviews on it, but I don't think my opinions have changed since the dev server. It's just got, oh god, it's just got too many weaknesses. Oh, I gotta side tank this. Eeh. But hopefully people enjoy it. You know, you wanna see people enjoying the vehicles that are around. So, oh no. Oh, it's gonna hit my booty. Bit of a crazy spawn, this one. Right, so the next one is like a Koji with a kinetic penetrating missile. The Stormer's missiles are classed as KP-80 gems. Yeah, well, I mean, technically they kind of are, aren't they? If you think about it. So it's not really a surprise at the end of the day. Oh, we got him. Nice. I think somebody was telling me that they fixed the Stormer, but as usual, the issue with the Stormer is ping, so you can't really fix it. You can make it work for like people who are on the same ping, but yeah, you can't ever really fix something like that. Anything like it's the reason why they haven't added the Falcons, like straight up. So. Yeah, the APS is a bit weird on the links as well. Supposedly, I hit this guy with VT. Jesus, he's still alive. Oh, there we go. So then we have Space Duck StarCraft. Hi Tech. The latest of the event days just ended a few minutes ago. And again, despite my best efforts, I only reached 72.4k score. I began about 2 hours after the day started, slept 6 hours, and according to the replay log, I didn't play for another 4.5 hours. Which means that I did play for 11.5 matches, 52 plus 1 matches. God damn, that's a lot of playtime. Let's just take this guy out while he's wandering. There you go. I wasn't able to finish the task. Pure complaining over. I realize I'm not skilled at the game, but do you think the event designers are so focused on making the event a challenge for highly skilled players that they make it too much work for the average and below players? Side question, I don't know how much score a bot would generate in 24 hours, but any bot would certainly be able to generate some points off the players' off hours. Should pure scoring grinding events be removed, just not to encourage botting? I mean, yeah, the two types of ways that they have designed these ones in the past, so whether it was activity or score, are always going to like affect, like, you know, people are going to be able to script that stuff, right? So it's better to do challenge events to get away from that stuff, but obviously have challenges change over time, kind of like the battle pass challenges instead of other stuff. For me, when I think about these types of events, the one thing that always comes to mind is I always set out to kind of like grind the event while playing normally, and most of the time I actually do, but then there's some days where I just have to play like the meta stuff just to kind of keep like a semblance of my brain. Like today, while doing like the tech talk, we're doing the SKRs, which, you know, is one of the easier ways to grind the event. But I think the main thing is it's the whole, like, it's important to play the event, you know, in a certain way to get it done quickly, but also you got to play smart, not hard. So if you are a person trying to do the event, not necessarily a bot trying to do the event, the one thing is you need to have your lineups you go to which you know you can do well in, or the areas of the game which you know you can kind of grind out to be able to do alright in too. So for me, it's like Naval, certain BRs, and also at the same time it's you know, it's parts of air, like, you know, 10-0 to 9-0. So I think personally I would prefer events in War Thunder. Hey, Another Thunder, nice to see you. If they went towards the challenge setup. Like, I'm fine with having score events in the game, but the problem is they're all the same. So every single score event that we have that exists in War Thunder is exactly the same. They all feel the same, they all work the same, right? And because of that, it gets kind of boring playing the same stuff over and over, or not the same stuff over and over again, but kind of grinding the same thing over and over again. And that's basically what these events are. So if you think about like the January event, or the summer event, the winter event, these events, even the Page of History events, they're all set up in the same way. which can get pretty boring pretty quickly. So for me, it would be better if they did. I'm fine with these types of events, but we need a little bit of variety inside of them themselves. So not 75k every day. Instead, maybe 75k every other day. So over 2 days, then maybe a challenge in the middle too. Hey Sal, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good today. Like, a balance is the way forward, right? A balance is always the best during these things. Then we have Sven's History Lab. Hey TEC, hello. Do you have any idea why Britain doesn't have the P40 Tomahawk? They were the second largest users of them and have quite a few aces with them. Preferably, they would get a tech tree version and a premium, but I would definitely buy a Tomahawk. Because they wanted to add in the... They wanted to add it into the Chinese tech tree. That's pretty much it. Like, well, once again, it's the same reason why the KF-41 is in the Hungarian tech tree right now instead of the German one. Because China has a premium Tomahawk, they want you to buy the premium Tomahawk. I think stuff like that as well. So, Gaijin went away from the idea of, like, these copy-paste premiums, like, for certain nations. Like, Britain has a ton of American copy-paste vehicles. Like a metric ton of them, if you have a look across the board. And I feel like they went away from that because people just, once again, the whole every tech tree is the same kind of thing. So I'm guessing that's what happened, and I'm guessing that's, you know, what's kind of stopping them doing stuff like that. It also doesn't mean they won't come in the future, right? The area around where that vehicle will be, though, like the area around where the Tomahawk is pretty stacked in the British tech tree. So I don't see why there wouldn't be any reason why they wouldn't add them in the future. That's one thing I always have to kind of like remind myself and then also others. War Thunder is nowhere near done, right? Like the actual game itself has a ridiculous amount of legs to it. There's a lot of stuff that War Thunder can kind of bring, and the basis of it, the foundation of it, has been pretty much sorted out over the last 10 years. So now is actually the time which is the most interesting for War Thunder, because they've shown that they can rapidly expand stuff. And also, at the same time, they can keep a semblance of what the old game was. So, with that said, it's a really interesting time for the game. Because there's going to be I feel like there's going to be a bit of a crisis in, like, the next little bit. And the crisis is not a bad one. It's just one which every game goes through. You have the veteran players who get sick of the game and want something new and want something different. Then you get the new players who come in and they've played other games which those veteran players didn't play in the past because they were playing War Thunder and they expect something different. You see that with like the artillery mechanic stuff and all that, right? So you have all of these different systems or different people that come in who want a vast majority of different things, and then you have to try and appease all of that. So you can see it kind of creeping in over the last few years, where since War Thunder is always like an ever-changing game, like you see these opinions just getting a bit louder and a bit louder and a bit louder and a bit louder, and that's what's happening. So we'll have to see what goes on. It's an interesting time to be in though, because you are going to have a straight up old guard versus new guard thing. And even though you have that all the time, and we've seen that, you know, for a long time when it comes to War Thunder, I think it's going to come to a real big, like, head after a while. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes. As I said, we saw it a little bit earlier in the year when it came to the economical stuff and how all that was set up. But it's still interesting to think about. How is that guy not dead? God damn. I just couldn't kill him. Then we have Elias. In the past week, I've unlocked the P-51D5, B-17 first two LA5s, the first three Altos, the Glorious, the US MBT, M36B2, the T-5451, the Jaguar GR1A. The research changes are pretty nice. Yeah, they're alright. Seem to work pretty well. I'm glad that people are enjoying them. They definitely seem to be doing good stuff. For me, with all the changes, it basically meant that I had a bunch of vehicles that were just ready to go. Oh my god. Didn't realize there was so many cruisers about. But yeah, so the changes, at least for me, have been good. I don't think the changes are negative for anybody thinking about it, so hopefully we continue to see those changes, and hopefully it's the next step in the evolution of the game. It's been nice. It was quite. I still have a bunch of vehicles I just haven't bought because I don't have. What's the word? I don't have them sorted. Right. But yeah, it's been nice. So we have Abby, or Abigail. Good old Cakey. Taking a break from the fantasy party builder, what different locations would you like as maps in War Thunder and why? So, I know recently War Thunder has decided to go for nondescript area number 5 with themes. So, for me, it's not necessarily specific areas, because if you decide to do historical areas, what ends up happening is you leave yourself open to problems because you can't necessarily change what that area looks like on the map, right? So for me, I would prefer themes and stuff like I would like ones such as pre-World War II cities. So it's all fun, like having areas which are just bombed out hellholes. So like Berlin, for example. And also more modern areas, like the Sweden map. But one of the things that we don't really have is like an old-timey city map. Instead, all of the maps have actually been tailored more to what we would class as like more modern areas. So when you think about Seversk, right, like it's 1970s, 80s, 90s. If you think about the one they just added in, the testing site is also around that area. If you think about like if you think about even stuff like Sweden, as I said, it's way more modern than what we've seen previously. So for me, I would just like maps which were set in the 20s or 30s, even like Sun City, right? Like another very modern Middle Eastern map. I just like the idea of a map which is set in the 20s or in the 30s with that kind of aesthetic, because I honestly think that especially the 20s had a really cool style. And you know, with all the art that was out there and all the dancing and of course the music and everything, I find stuff like that really cool. So I'd like one based around that. I'd also like to see a Sicily ground map. I think that would be kind of cool, just in general. Naval wise, I would just like I would like a shrunken English Channel map. So you take the English Channel, you know, the area between France and England, and you condense it, and then maybe you put like a few islands in the middle, and that would be kind of cool to see. Just to fight around the cliffs of Dover, I think would be quite fun to do. So then we have Islam Ziad 3664. Gadin should add camo nets that reduce the thermal signature of the tank. No, I don't think so. I'm kind of fine with everybody being on the same playing field, and stuff like that is not something that's developed for every vehicle or developed for every nation. So I would be much more I would be much more in favor of things. This aimer, by the way, on this SKR stock is terrible. I'll be much more in favor of limiting just overall stuff if you want to do it like that. I don't like the idea of certain vehicles just having certain advantages like that. It would be very annoying to deal with. It's one of the issues we have with War Thunder in general, which is rules for thee but not for me. And once that happens, you just have pretty horrific situations because you just have a metric ton of vehicles that all have different rules attached to them, just like how all the tech trees have different rules attached to them, right? So it's really hard to work out like what set of rules you're supposed to be following. Like, it doesn't work very well. Right. So the next one is Maxwell. You're correct, it's not good to find excuses to not do stuff in life. I'm worried I might be doing that myself, but generally what I've found from talking to others, my problem seems to be blaming myself and holding myself back for things I shouldn't, etc, etc. I've been able to study as much as I want to for at least 2 years now, and thus I'm trying to check it. Of course, I could be just lazy, and of course, I'll take full accountability. If I turn out to have no significant issues that would hold me back studying, again, I appreciate taking the time to talk about this and being honest. Take care, love the tech talks. Oh, that's all good. I mean, as I said, like, somebody giving you a diagnosis for what is classed as a mental disorder will not save or will not help your problems. The only thing it'll do is they'll give you medication to dumb you down to a point of where they see you as normal. And then at that point, you're no use to anybody anyway, because you aren't able to actually do what you used to do, right? So, as I've said many times, like, some of the most brilliant people that I've met when it comes to life, and some of the greatest thinkers that I've met are heavily autistic. And I met them at university, and I still talk to a lot of them today, even though their social skills are pretty much zero. You meet them in high-end science, you meet them in mathematics, you meet them in all of these different areas, and they are awful at most areas of life. But they are very good at very specific things, and it's really interesting and enlightening to talk to them about it if they're open to talk to it about it. Now, most people think that they have stuff like disorders or stuff like issues like that, but if you actually have a functioning life in or out of that, then that won't be the case, right? So what ends up happening is certain areas of your life are getting tanked by the fact that you are heavily focusing on others. That is not what happens with the vast majority of the people. The vast majority of people who deal with that stuff are just straight up lazy, or just don't realize how much effort has to be put into something to be able to get it done and get it done well, right? And yes, some things come to people or certain people easier than others, but at the same time, then what comes in there is study groups, what comes in is socialization, what comes in is working out, stuff through that instead of just doing it individually. But a diagnosis doesn't save anybody. All it does is give excuses, and also at the same time dulls down the natural senses. I've seen it happen to way too many people in my life, and it's just very, very sad. So hopefully it's something that can be shifted going forward. So we have Elias, PI 1995 or 1995. Hey Dimitri, nice to see you. You got your second test report. Is this good progress? Yeah, it's very good. You're on track. I think once I assemble this one and put it together, I'll have my second one too. So yeah, on time, on target. We're doing well. Alright, so then we have Elias, as I said. They really need to update the Memphis Belle and Sugar Blues decal challenges to be for tonnage dropped instead of ground targets destroyed, since they did that for the bomber camo challenges. Like, who's going to fly lower in a B-17 or a Lancaster, making them even easier target for 500 ground and naval units? I remember trying to do this on PlayStation and giving up, because if you fly at altitude, you're too inaccurate to anything, and as mentioned before, you could go lower and die. That's fair. I honestly think it might be worth checking out Simulator or Arcade, because you can obviously just like dive bomb in Arcade and you have the marker and everything, which is quite good. So maybe that is something that could be focused on. Like you could maybe think about that. But yeah, at the same time, like getting those decals is a bit crazy. They do need to. I would change the tonnage thing as well, or change it to tonnage, because that's what those vehicles are designed around. And we have W. Smith 3849. I can't understand why non-missile, non-afterburner jets get put into matches with those types. I find my F-86 is now a target drone and I can't make it work. Any recommendations other than get a higher BR jet? Afterburners don't necessarily mean that the vehicle is better than what you have. Thank you for the raid, Ace. Hopefully you had a good day. Hopefully you had a good stream. We're just doing Naval and the Tech Talk today. So, for example, the Saber Dog, right? The Saber Dog is an afterburning vehicle. It also is a vehicle that has a huge issue with its afterburner and how it works. No CL Diablo, hopefully you're doing alright today. So the vehicle itself. Oh, sorry. The vehicle itself, the Saber Dog at high speeds compresses hard. And so if you are in a Saber and you defensively fly around the thing, you can force an overshoot in most scenarios. And then there's nothing that the Saber Dog can do apart from running to the guns if he's going too fast. So basically, it's all about setting up. It's all about setting up a situation where you're in the ascendancy in most regards. Now, right now, in something like a Sabre at 8.7, you're probably not in the best position to be able to do anything. It's not a strong vehicle, and one of the issues that you run into, especially with stuff like air, like this happens a lot in air, is there'll be many times where you won't be at the meta BR, and because you're not at the meta BR, you're going to get hammered. Make sure that you have C-bound or you have swivel bound like this one, so you can look around and not move your stuff. Learn how to fly with the keyboard and then micro adjustments with the mouse, and hopefully that all goes well for you. Sorry, I'm just trying to get comfortable. My back's hurting right now. But yeah, that's pretty much how I would approach it, because after spading a lot of those vehicles, that's how I've had to approach it. And yeah, you know when you're in a good vehicle and you know when you're not in a, because of the meta defining BRs. But also remember, if you're at 8.7 with the Sabre, how does a 7.7 deal with the Sabre? Right? How do you deal with a full up tier if you're in a 7.7, how do you kill a Sabre? So you could blame the matchmaker for it, you could blame whatever it is for it, but yeah, it's the same situation all around. Usually vehicles that are lower BR than others are usually weaker. In aviation, there's certain BRs which are just nuts for that, so it's not very fun. BDAR should be 8.7? Sure, why not? Thanks, Bob. Alright. Let's try and set up so I don't get shot. But yeah, so I don't think the Vidar should be 8.7. I think it's very much overhyped by people who haven't played it. Or people who have been popped by it once. After playing against many Vidars over the last few days, they're really not that good. we go. So we have just another Bob, 1621. Let's just not go full ahead. Hi Tech. Here's why the Chinese Blue Water Navy should be the next tech tree to add. China had a rather sizable navy and many different ships with vastly different capabilities. Oh, just gotta shoot them off it. Yeah, I can read while shooting him. China also could bring some unique things to the game in the lower tiers because they operate a few older ships. Here are some examples. The Hai-Yong class cruisers, they were built in Germany and completed in 1898. They were built in Germany, completed 1898. They had a top speed of 20 knots and were armed with two 150s, 676s, two 37s, and two torpedo tubes. Displacement was 2500 to 2750. It's wiki time. The Chao Ho class cruisers finished in 1911. They were really similar to the Hai-Yong class in size and armament and speed, but built by the British. Let's just keep shooting this guy. Oh god. Well, unfortunately, Bob, your comment has got me killed. Right. The Hai-10 class cruisers. These cruisers were completed in 1899 by the British and show why the British Navy was superior to the German one. They had a top speed of 24 knots and were armed with 252s, 10 140s, 1676, and 5 torpedo tubes. They were also a bit bigger in displacement, 4300 to 400. I just can't move my vehicle. And now for the really interesting stuff, the Ning-Hai class cruisers. They were first built in Japan and the second one was built in China partially with Japanese help, but they were disengaged from the project, so the good old Germans stepped in and completed with some changes. The ships reached a top speed of 22 knots, displacing 2,500 tons. The armament was way closer to what we'd expect from a light cruiser with 3 double 140s. 6 76s, 388s. There's a chance the premium improved AA. We all know that Gaijin loves those, and 4.533 torpedo tubes. In a tech tree, the Hai-Yong class could make a reserve around 3.7 since the ship is huge, slow, has a small crew of 244 and an armament, and nothing to write home about. The Chao Hao class could sit at the same behind, provide the starter premium. We need those ones as well. Since the ships are rather similar, the Hai-10 and the Ning-Hai class could probably sit somewhere around 4.7 with 2 tech tree ships, and the approved AA Ning-Hai is a premium. So far, there are 3 rank 1 and 3 rank 2 cruisers, making 2 full lineups, and this is where China really shows how unique it is, because everyone else progresses from early destroyers to light cruisers, while China floats this around. There's a story for another tech talk. Alright, there you go. Easy peasy. Oh, we have another one. So we have Death Misser. After watching your Yugoslavia video, I want to hear your views if Poland could be the next nation, as it was mentioned in the IGN Poland interview. As you can see, we found solutions for South Africa and Israel, so there may be a solution for Poland too. Now that the roadmap is teased about 11 new nations for this year, I guess this means the stars are aligned for Poland. Poland already has vehicles in the game. They tease stuff because it's very easy content, and it's basically what people enjoy talking about, and it's very easy to sort out. The thing about War Thunder is it brings out people's nationalism, which isn't an inherently negative thing, because it's good that people can be proud of where they're from, but it does get very obnoxious, especially when you hear the 50th millionth time of a person telling you about random ass X vehicle that was developed, and you know, it's the pride and joy of it, while they got smashed by every other country that existed in, you know, the world. So, will Poland come? Yes. Will it come as an independent tree? No. It'll be a branch off of a different tech tree. Like, it really depends on who they decide to add. Like, they could add it technically to anybody. So yeah, it's just one of those which we will see. It just depends when. and who, and that is really the real question. Who do you add it to? For me, I add it to Germany for the memes, but it probably won't get added to Germany. Adding it to Russia would be really meme-worthy, so either of those would be fantastic. But they'll probably add it to, like, I don't know, France for some reason. The other thing that is mainly down with Poland is they are a perfect nation for event and premium vehicles because they don't make anything themselves, and all of it is just like straight up from other nations. So that basically means that you can just add in stuff like the M1A1 AIM, for example, like they did for the Americans, where it's the squadron vehicle, which is just a copy of their own vehicle with slight differences. If you have a look at Poland right now, that's what they specialize in. They specialize in vehicles that were made by other nations, which have slight differences in order to make it, you know, make it proper for the Polish state. So I think it's more likely we get stuff like event vehicles and stuff like that than it does we get a full-blown tech tree or a sub-tree for Poland. Of course, they're going to say stay tech tuned to the news to a Polish outlet, just like if they were talking to an English outlet, they would say, hey, stay tuned for the news, English vehicles. If they talk to like a Kenyan outlet, they'll be like, hey, maybe we'll have some Kenyan vehicles, you know. It's the audience that you're going towards. So yeah, they'll add him, but my guess is there'll be more battle pass and premium and event stuff than other areas. There we go. Then we have Caleb Crisper. The EU bit from chat was strange. It sounded like they were going on about the EU Digital Content Directive, which is more for the game itself and things like season passes. But even if the single purchases were under it, they aren't changing it in a way that is unreasonable or removing it. Yeah, the great thing about the internet is wherever you actually land on it, what you'll find is experts on every single thing that ever has existed. So it happens a lot when it comes to my videos when I'll have a situation where I'm talking about a vehicle in the game. Like it happened with the LOSAT recently, where like I'm talking about how it works in the game and how, you know, it doesn't technically work properly, but also this is how it is. And you just get a bunch of people who have read an internet fucking PDF or they've read whatever and they've just gone, no, this guy's an idiot, this is how it's supposed to work. And it's like, well, fine, but it just doesn't. So like you can just be annoyed about it. It's the same when it comes to all of these things on the internet. You're gonna get a bunch of people who have read like one line from somebody and they believe it as gospel. We literally had last night a dude who was saying that like 2 things got leaked or something, like on the Reddit, because some dude was basically cosplaying as a I think it was like a leopard tanker, even though he was cosplaying as something else the week before. So it's all just about perspective and also, you know, understanding that people consistently lie on the internet. So and also at the same time, there is a real problem right now, and it's happening a lot. I found in War Thunder. Hey Lafouche, nice to see you, man. It's happening a lot in War Thunder, and I don't know if it's because people who are coming in are young, or if people who are coming in are not really thinking, or maybe this is just the new age of Zoomers or something. There's a ton of people who think there's only like one set of laws in the world, like some kind of like weird new world order, where every nation has exactly the same laws and every nation works exactly the same way. But, you know, they're basically just projecting their own nation's laws on others. And that, to me, has been super weird to deal with over this last year or so. And it's not getting better, by the way. That part is getting way worse. So, yeah, it's really odd to me. But, yeah, it's very weird. After having a look myself at that EU stuff, I mean, technically, because of how the EU is and how pretty much all of these branches are, it's written incredibly ambiguously. So technically, you could probably go to the EU Court of whatever it's called. I can't remember the name of it. Like, you probably could go there and and have a bit of a chat about it and maybe get some stuff sorted. But at least right now, like, I don't think that's gonna happen. Like, it's not as if anybody's gonna sort that out or whatever. Like, the impetus has to come from the people. So if the people rise up, then we'll see what goes on. Good luck with that. People like complaining, they don't like doing. So we have like Yukuji again. Let's see. Gadget needs to add the Starburst missile mod to the Stormer HMV, as the missiles on that thing are completely unplayable for me in Australia with 500 ping. Or they should just add the M548 base track Rapier AA missile system and give the Brits a 9397 SAM system almost like everyone else. I don't know what the Starburst missile mod is, but I'm guessing it's what it says on the tin. So yeah, sure, I'm fine with it. Like alright. The what was I saying? Yeah, so if it exists, sure, why not? And yeah, they'll add the rapier thing at some point anyway. The issue with the rapier is, once again, its targeting system. Like, it's a bit dodgy how it all works, but you know, they've said, ow, my god, my back just clicked like 8 times. God damn. I had some heavy lifting last night, so it's a bit rough. But yeah, I'm sure in the future that they'll do those things. As always, everything expands. Then we have Hazmat Gaming 395. Hey Tech, first I want to say I love the content. I've been watching for about a year now. Thank you. If you could add anything to War Thunder, what would it be? Either the prestige system that we've talked about previously, or a system to be able to grind out old event vehicles for newer players. So to give people access to everything instead of some people having and some people have noting. Because I really don't like the fact that I have access to vehicles because I played the game earlier than some other people. I think just as a general rule, I think that's a very poor thing. Is the way that I see it. So that's a problem for me personally. I don't like that. I don't like the fact that because I started playing in 2013, somebody who started playing in 2018 or 2020 does not get access to the same vehicles that I did. Because even, like, you know, you could talk about like the market and everything like that, but there are vehicles that just aren't on the market. And then also you have vehicles which are oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry, you have players who don't have access to the market, whether they be on PC or on console. So I want to add in a system where you can grind out the stuff, or, you know, with events, they could maybe bring them back at some point during the times every so often. Or they could bring in, you know, different things that are available, like different times. So yeah, those would be the two. One for older players and one for newer ones. Also, you know, the market being available for console too, so we can stop having this two-tiered system that exists in War Thunder. Like, not a big fan of that either, really, if I'm honest with you. So then we have Ovted Tierson. What's your favorite rank 3 light, medium, heavy SPA or TD? Or just pick the first that comes to the mind. I mean, when it comes to questions like that, the first thing that comes to mind is shooting myself in the head. But second thought is the Chaffee in the Japanese tree. That one's pretty fun. The problem is they've moved around a lot of yeah, stuff like the tricolor smoke too. They've moved around a lot of vehicles recently, so it's kind of hard to remember. The Istavak is really fun, but I don't know if that one's rank 3 or not. But that one's quite enjoyable. TD wise is the SU-85, because you can basically just play it as a medium, which is not something that you can do with a lot of those other ones. I really don't like the M10 as a vehicle, not a huge fan. And then what else do we have? That's about the place. Like heavies, I mean the KV-1's this 5 is one of the easiest vehicles in the game to play. Like it always is super easy to motor around with and destroy things. So yeah, I think overall those would probably be my picks. I don't think I missed anything there. All of those work pretty well. There's a lot of rank 3 stuff in the game which is super fun. You know, most nations have at least some lineup at rank 3. So it's good to play that area. Can be very fun. I think rank 4 is where a lot of tech trees kind of go nuts though. Oh, PVKV2 is super fun. That one's at rank 3 as well. And the Delat Torn as well. If you can get the gun on the Delat Torn rocking, it's super enjoyable. It's one thing that can be a bit harder to do, but works very well. So we have C-76 Caravan. Right. We'll just nuke this guy into oblivion for a second. There we go. Is it worth selling the Vidar? How would you sell it? I'd be quite impressed if you could sell it. Let's just let my guns sting. From last Tech Talk, guessing you don't go back to see what was added in past Tech Talks after posting the newest one, which is understandable. Nah, usually when I'm done with it, I'm done with it. Like, if that was the case, can you imagine? Woo! Oh, the low sat? Oh, well, it depends, obviously. Like, I'm not entirely sure how well that thing's going to be going forward. Let's just throw these out. Sorry, I'm just in a bit of a kerfuffle right now. There we go. Our family and alcohol, not as bad, but a few experiences basically made me not drink alcohol. Totally don't mind, and I'm fine with people that drink when getting together. People that are alcoholics, I just feel for them. And yeah, university is such an informative era in both the professional path, but also getting one's own feet and developing own identity, and often circle of friends. Of course, some will have different experiences, but I'd say majority will be along those lines. Yeah, I agree. It was definitely the period for me that was the most important. Not really from the friends' point of view. I still have a lot of friends, not just from college but also university and school, but a lot of the people I met afterwards probably are much more not useful, but like, you know, I spend more time with them. And the basic reason for this is because when I was at uni, since I was an international student, I hang around with a lot of international students. So a lot of us when they finished, they just went back home. So it was like, oh well, yeah, if I ever come to Qatar, I'll see you. Like, not a lot you can do about it. But yeah, I don't mind if people drink alcohol around me. Like, I'm not one of those people. I generally am fine with also drinking alcohol. I don't really drink it that often. But the main thing for me is I'm just very, very cognizant if I start having to do something every day, or if I have to start, you know, if I have to start sorting out some stuff, like whether it's like a coffee, right, or whether it's like something like that, I just become very, very aware of what I'm doing and why maybe I should like take some days off, or not do the same patterns over and over again, because I'm super pattern orientated, and I feel like when it comes to alkies or when it comes to anybody like that, they're also crazy pattern orientated, but their pattern is more, it isn't like chosen, it's the one which is kind of forced upon them because of the addiction that they have. And so yeah, it can be a little bit tough. Ooh. But yeah, I do think university is important, but not important from the learning point of view. The learning point of view is nice at university, but what is more important is the connections, which unfortunately people haven't been able to get during the COVID period. And we have Norseras. It's true, it must be at 11.7 and nerf its ammunition. I'm guessing this is to do with the VDAR. Nah, it doesn't. It really doesn't. Like, I honestly think the VDAR will go up, but it'll go up by like 1 stroke. Maybe 8.0 at most. Like recently I've been playing the BTR. The Hungarian BTR, and also playing the 8.7 Soviet, but also playing a few other areas too, right? So basically just trying my best to get involved in a lot of the different areas of the tech trees. Now when I think about like certain areas of tech trees that are really strong, like 8.7 for the USSR, like 8.0 for Germany right now, the VDAR would just get crucified by those lineups. Like, it wouldn't even be close. So, yeah, I don't know. I do honestly think many people have just massively overvalued that vehicle. But that happens quite a lot, so it's not really a surprise. Hey, Secretech, nice to see you. What am I doing? We're doing the tech talk, and then also, obviously, playing a bit of Naval. Ooh. I'm working out quite a lot. So we have Jerry. How are you able to do your job and have time to play and stream War Thunder and also upload videos almost every day? I'm incredibly ordered as a person. So I can't remember who said it. But I think it was Nick Bobacki. Now, Nick Bobacki is a fun Texan guy who turns up every once in a while. And he's been following the stuff for a long time. And there was a thing he put a year ago, or a year and a half ago, when somebody asked basically the same question, and he summed it up in the perfect way. If you think about the most ordered thing that you can think of, most ordered person when it comes to scheduling, when it comes to how to do things, when it comes to what time is needed for what thing, then you think about that and then realize that I am double that. So everything, there are many things that I do in my life which are literally down to the minute. So I've worked out over many years how long it takes me to do specific things. And because I now know how long it takes me to do specific things, I can now work out everything else around it. Like, that's how I work as a human. So I know how long it takes me to make food. I know how long it takes me to, you know, shower. I know how long it takes me to do all of these different things, right? And also at the same time, like, the people around me, who a lot of people are generally distractions who are around you, right? So whether it's family, whether it's friends, all of that stuff, everybody that I have around me knows if you leave me to like my own devices, then I can do everything that I can do plus extras, which which is fine. So I have a lot of people who are sat around in my life, like, you know, the missus, and then also just general family members who understand how I work, and because they understand how I work, kind of afford me more time than others kind of get, because they know at the end of the day I'll be able to make it up, or I'll be able to do different things. So it's just the simple fact that I'm just a super ordered person. And I have, since pretty much like 15, 16, when I decided like, okay, so we're going to do the university stuff. We're probably going to do like the abroad stuff because I want to go somewhere. So that, since then, I've been wired like this. And because of the life experiences that I had to go through, in a way forced to go through, whether it was with, you know, my family stuff, or whether it was from being in a different country compared to everybody else, like, you know, basically being by myself and having to sort everything else by myself, that's how I learned how to live, and that's how I learned how to be. And many people can't, or don't, or find it very hard to relate to, because it's pretty much impossible to relate to, because hardly anybody is actually put into that situation. Like, it's not a situation that many will find themselves in, and also kind of thrive from. Like, there was a lot of times, especially when I was younger, where I could have easily cracked under pressures and, you know, kind of fallen apart because of all of this stuff, and I nearly did a few times. But since I went through some pretty crazy experiences when I was younger, especially when I was at university and I was doing all that stuff, I now know nowadays that I know where my limits are when it comes to all of this stuff, and then I can afford to push myself to a point where I know is like the point of no return. Like, what the So when I was at university, right, there was basically 2.5 semesters. So a fall, a winter, and then a fall. So this was in third year and then the start of fourth year. So there was pretty much, it was a year and a half, or in 4-month stints, 2 4-month stints, then another 4-month stint, where I was sleeping every other day. And the reason is because I just kept running out of time to be able to like do everything. And with the way that my brain was set up, and the way that motherfucker, come on, man. The way that everything was set up in my head, I had to get everything done or I couldn't sleep. So I set up instead of like a standard schedule, which may be like 8 hours for people, instead I set up a 48-hour schedule. So basically I would do stuff for 36 to 38 hours, and then I would pass out for like 8 to 9 to 10 hours, and then I would do it again. So every time I was running on a cycle of 2 days, instead of, you know, when people like go, oh, well, I'll study for 4 hours, or I'll work for like 8. For me, it was working everything at a pattern of 2 days straight. So nowadays, I do half of that. So I work on a 24-hour cycle. I have my work in the morning, because most of the people that I work with are Europeans. So it makes sense to work in the mornings. So I get up early, do the emails, do the chats, and then do my actual work stuff. And then after that, like, or while that's going on, I can have a look at the news of the day, whether it be like, you know, actual news or maybe War Thunder news. And then the moment that like happens, and the moment I see it while I'm doing my standard work, I multitask and think about, okay, so what videos am I going to make for the day with what's available. I also have notepads of video ideas that kind of have been sat there, some of them that have been sat there for years, on like certain topics and stuff, which I can just whap out if I don't have anything for the day, or if I don't have too much to talk about. And that is also something which, you know, is not the easiest thing to do, because like you kind of like sit on ideas for a long time and nothing really goes on. But so I have a period of time where I have 2 hours to make videos, then I have to work out, then I gotta eat, then I gotta do all this stuff, right? So what ends up happening is, because I've worked out how long it takes me to do all these different things, and also at the same time kind of optimized how long it takes me to do stuff. So for example, the recording things. Nowadays I do some of the recordings on the streams, so people see like how I record stuff, right? And and the way that I do it is usually in one take, because I've already thought about like what I want to do in my head and what I want to chat about, and also because I have all the prior knowledge from the previous stuff, which, you know, is something that is kind of priceless, because it's not the easiest thing for different people to do. So we have all of these, where there's all of these different things that go on, and also I've optimized like making the thumbnail stuff, you know, optimized different parts. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do. So every day that I exist, and that includes Monday to Sunday. So the only time this is different is actually technically on Tuesday afternoons. But even on Tuesday afternoons, I'm thinking about the next stage, and I'm thinking about what to do kind of going forward. So I have all of that stuff going on in my brain all the time. And also I plan everything out pretty much to a T. I also have a pretty nice missus who's very appreciative of what I do, and also supports me a lot, meaning that, you know, when it comes to like making dinner in the evenings or stuff like that, or some of the logistical stuff of like life, so, you know, ordering food or doing, you know, like doing groceries and things like that, like she's very good at doing all that stuff and kind of keeping everything like that ordered. So it isn't just like a one-man band in that way. It definitely helps a lot. One of the big things that I've been able to like massively improve recently is the simple fact that now, like when it comes to eating, like I have the same lunch every day for like a week, and then I have the same breakfast every day for a week, and all that stuff is planned out like a week in advance. So yeah, it's now meant I have an extra 20-30 minutes a week to be able to do stuff. But yeah, I've talked about my daily routine in the past, and whenever I talk about it, people just tell me I'm lying or say, how the hell can you do that? That's ridiculous. And all I can do is turn around and go, well, look at all the stuff that gets made. look at all the stuff that I do. The only way I can do that is if I do it in this way, you know. So because I don't think there's anybody else who is able to do what I do. And that's because my life is ordered to a T. There's people who can, you know, do more stuff in different areas, you know, like if people, like I could easily stream like 12, if I had nothing else to do, I could easily stream like 12, 16-hour days and not really worry about things. But at the same time, you know, that means that everything else would kind of go alright. One of the problems I'm actually running into now is being able to do other things as well. So like the TikTok stuff, the YouTube short stuff, the second channel stuff, I literally need like 30 minutes to an hour a week to be able to fit that in, but I just don't have that. So the other thing that's kind of hard to do when it comes to YouTube stuff is I've got to be super malleable. So like obviously with the fact that the news might change depending on the day, it can be rough, but overall it's not too bad. It's fun. But I don't know, I just do it. Maybe one day we'll do a what does a day in the world of tech look like? And then maybe we'll do that. That could be quite fun. I think a lot of people would be shocked and just be like, "Oh, okay. This guy's just a nutso." And they won't be wrong. Like it is completely ridiculous what I do. But I enjoy it and it works. So it is how it is. Yeah, here's my Lamborghini. And you know how I got that? Knowledge. Right. So then we have Shame Lover. Hello, Techo. Hello, Shamo. In regards to your time blindness, it is a real issue for ADD and ADHD people. But it is no excuse. You found a way to be on time, or you're an actual blob. Have a nice day, brother. You too. Yeah, so the time thing is interesting. So I see it in two ways, right? The first one is simple. It definitely exists that people completely forget about time, because I'm one of those people who does forget about time sometimes as well. But it's usually like I have like the standard thing where if I'm having a good time, then that's when I forget about it, right? Um, but also there is another thing to also note about this. Uh, if you know that it is a problem, then like so for me, right? Now, so I have my phone, right? So what I do here is you can actually see like I put reminders. So in the evening just before bed, I put reminders on my phone which basically remind me of all the stuff that I have to do on the next day. And what I do is I set it up in a way so it's so it reminds me about an hour before I have to do the thing, just in case I'm worried about like forgetting something very specific. Like even if it's like ordering tickets or checking a bank account or whatever it is, right? Now, so if somebody knows that they have an issue like that, where they just kind of forget about time or have this time bladness or whatever you talk about, then you fix it through doing stuff like that, right? Like by writing stuff down like how people used to. Like calendars. Calendars are pretty useful. I like them. Hey, M6 Heavy, nice to see you, man. So then we have Kuznetsov Bia. Kuznetsov Bia. About cast for me usually is that I'm doing good in my tank, moving, capping, killing, and I get sniped from a guy that did nothing but sit on a hill. Yes, I go cast and kill him because I know he'll be in the same spot. Usually people who complain are people who play standing still. I've seen, so when it comes to complaining about cast, there's a few ones. So sometimes cast literally is overpowered. So for example, like for example, when the helis were first introduced, and also even some helis nowadays, they're incredibly overpowered vehicles in pretty much all settings, especially since they decided to nerf a lot of the counters to them. Then also there are some like mid-tier fighters which can carry bombs, which are just crazy, crazy good as well, right? So it's all just about the vehicle and how it's set up at the end of the day, and how it is. But so sometimes people I feel like do have legitimate grievances when it comes to certain vehicles in CAS. The other people who massively complain about CAS are people who don't grind out aviation tech trees. And this is something that I've seen a lot. So you'll have individuals who will constantly complain about CAS, but then also not grind out any of the counters to CAS, or you know, not research any of the tech tree stuff because they feel that it's, how do I put it? So you have like 3 sets of paint in front of you, and you want to paint a canvas red. So you have one person who just goes up and paints the canvas red with the red paint. You have the next person who comes up and paints it blue and goes, oh, that's not right. Okay, well, I'm going to paint it red. And then you have the third person who paints it yellow and then screams at the painting because it's yellow and doesn't paint it over red, right? So it's just, what we're talking about is the third set of people, where there are counters to something, or there are ways of dealing with it, but they refuse to use them because it isn't the way that they want to play. And when you have a game like War Thunder, which has so many different aspects to it, you have to be really, really malleable in order for it to like all work, right? And I feel like some people just don't want to be. They just want to play the game how they envision it should be played, and that's it. But that's never going to work in War Thunder. And also just, yeah, that's the prevailing narrative I get a lot from like people who complain about this stuff. Sometimes there is legitimate grievance. Vast majority of the time, I don't think there is. I think people just have a poor experience and then start complaining. The VDAR is an example of this, right? If you actually sit down and think about the VDAR for like 3 seconds, you'll realize its weaknesses and why it doesn't work in tons of situations. But if you just get bonked by it and also don't buy it because, you know, it costs money, which is a fair point, it can be very annoying to face because there's no like tech tree equivalent to it that you can test out and be like, okay, so how do I deal with this thing going forward, right? And that can be annoying to people. And, you know, it is how it is. Should you go down the Israeli air tree? If you've already researched every other tech tree in the game, yes. If not, no. So we have Insane Robert. Some premiums really need a bump up in BR. The Su-25 should be a 10-3 minimum and will do fine with their all-aspect missiles. There are too many situations where lower BRs will meet the Su-25, has no defense options, and get killed by the R-60MK at any angle. Right, let's just shoot this guy for a sec. There we go. F-89s and Su-11 should go up to 7.7 or at least 7.3. They're outperforming any other vehicle in that same matchmaking area. They're faster, climb better, and can outperform in armament. Wyvern also does not deserve to be 4.0. It's the only reason for a low BR because many people rush it with the bomb bases and they get the kills with 4.0. Have tons of armament options and perform well in a heavy fighter role. And I could add some more, but I'll leave it to you. Which vehicle should be readjusted in BR? The Object 279. There you go. The Su-25, like, I don't think it should go up in BR. From what I've been playing recently, I've been playing a lot of the 9.3s. The things that the Su-25s feast on is 9.0s, which there aren't actually many of anymore. And the ones where that suffer against it is stuff like the Saber Dog and like the F-86 F2, which once again, it's not a massive catchment area. So when I think about the Su-25, I'm not really that bothered by it. Like, if you're in a vehicle that has decent acceleration, it's not too hard to be able to get away from the missile. Like, more recently, I've been playing the MiG-23BN, right, to be able to get around it. And yeah, kind of like heading on the Su-25 and then pulling off. The missile just doesn't have time to be able to react. It's quite nice. There isn't really a counter to gas while you're in a tank is the problem for me. If I'm in my Abrams and a MiG-27K that is invisible to me drops a silent bomb, how am I supposed to do anything to counter that? Well, you can't. What you do is you counter through lineup, not through vehicle. But also, once again, as I said, there are specific cases where certain vehicles are very powerful. But yeah, the War Thunder is built around lineups, not around individual vehicles. So you can find vehicles in your lineup that can deal with those vehicles. Let's see if we're going to hit this guy more. Like, I don't even know how you would ever counter anything like that in something like an Abrams. What would be the plan? Alright, and then we have Yo Chief, 7711. 5428689. Tech is wrong on the NAT. It was designed as a small fighter, but used by the RAF as a trainer. And that has the firepower to be good as a fighter and reasonable in CAS. With the Hawk, it depends which one. The T1 may be okay at 9.0, but you're going to want the T220 at 11.0. And for those who want to talk it down, remind that it's used in UK NATO wargaming and does well in supporting tornadoes. I don't know what I said about the NAT. apart from I'd like to see it in the game. I don't think I'm wrong about wanting the NAT in the game, because the vehicle itself isn't primarily used as a trainer, and also doesn't fit the criteria that I don't want specific trainers in for. Like there's a fighter version of the NAT, the F1. Like they could just add that. The issue with trainers is that they have crazy weaponry and poor performance when it comes to speed and maneuverability. So yeah, they don't fit the game well. The NAT has decent speed and also it doesn't have insane weapons. So the NAT would fit pretty well in the game as like a mid-tier vehicle. Hey Polska, nice to see you. The vehicles like the MiG-27K are accounted to the counter themselves, so it's a single vehicle that can basically do everything except cap a point. Yep. So I'd like to see the NAT in the game. I don't know what I said about not adding it to the game. I remember a ton of people talking about the MB339 like in the last tech talk, but that one has magics on it. The NAT doesn't even have missiles. So it's, you know, it's a slightly different situation. The NAT has two 30mm Aidens and dumb bombs and rockets. So it would actually fit pretty well in the game. I don't put any thought into wargaming as a reason to add anything to the game. I also don't really put real life performance of vehicles as a, like, put it like this. War Thunder doesn't live in a world like DCS or other games which are trying to wholly represent how vehicles are supposed to be used, or vehicles tactics are supposed to be employed in like real life. War Thunder just tries to accurately model the vehicles and then that's it. Everything else, like when it comes to like tactics for real life or what happens in practices or whatever, it literally doesn't matter. You said it was a trainer, and if I remember, it could go to other nations. The NAT was used as a trainer, but it didn't just have a variant as a trainer. It had the T1 and the F1, and then the other ones. So Finland used the I think it's either the F1 or the FG1. So, like, the vehicle itself had different variants, just like how you have the F100F, right? So the F100F started off life as a trainer, and it was also used as a cast vehicle by the ROC. So it's like the same deal as the NAT. So we have Rajinsk. He's around the place. Nice to see him as always. Mr. Techie. Mr. Rajinsk. Yes, I'm still alive. Just been very busy recently, but still keep up with the odd video where I can. That's all good. Everybody gets busy, which is good. So then we have, let's see. We both played a lot of games growing up. Kane's Wrath, Halo Time Splitters, etc. Is there a game that comes to mind that you wish more people knew about? Me, I wish Time Splitters was more popular and well known back then. In school, everyone was playing, talking about the GTAs of the day. And I was that weirdo yapping about the Time Splitters game. As always, thank you so much for the content you create and this community you built. Love Rajinks. Love you too, brother. Nice to see you. So, I concur. Time Splitters is one of those, which would be really cool to see. I think, if I'm honest, I remember they're working on something which is Time Splitters-esque. So that could be pretty cool. Thank you for the Prime subscription, Jolo. Thank you for continuing to support the channel. It's very much appreciated. Thank you very much, man. So that could be awesome, if it ever comes out, obviously. The fact that they're bringing back Tempest Rising, also Command & Conquer was a big part of the childhood, but that I feel like is not a game that people don't know about. Ground Control. Ground Control was a really fun game. Basically, it would give you like it was like an RTS. It gave you a certain set of units and was like, okay, here's your objectives. Now you have to like go out and get them, right? And I found that really fun to play. Back in the day, Ground Control was great. Had a really good time. Obviously, Majesty we've talked about many times, how it all works, and you know the game behind it, which is super fun. And then also there's a few others that would be pretty cool. I kind of liked Harry Potter Quidditch Cup, weird enough. I'm guessing people knew about that one, but it was super fun, like playing that. Also International Cricket Captain, which sounds funny, but if you like spreadsheet games with a little bit of animations here and there, International Cricket Captain or just Cricket Captain was fantastic. You know, it was FIFA but cricket. So, and you no, sorry, Football Manager but cricket. So it was really fun. I had a fantastic time playing it, and I really, I had like I had certain teams that I played for like a decade or 20 years, and you know, I used to invest a ton of money into like the youth setup, and then I'd bring through some actual monsters when it came to it, and then brought in some like veteran international players, and yeah, it was just those games are just really fun, like management simulator kind of stuff in their own ways. Then there was a few other games which were really fun when I was younger, which was quite enjoyable. Big Red Racing that we've talked about was all right. Rome Total War, but I feel like a lot of people know about that one. That's, you know, it's obviously one which is massively improved over the years in how it's all set up. But yeah, like those are the ones that come to mind when I think about those types of games. There's a ton of stuff we're going to be playing going forward, which will be fun. Trying to think of like Turok actually. Turok, I don't know what happened to Turok, but like humans versus dinosaurs was just a really cool, fun like set of ideas, you know. Always down for a bit of Turok, whether it was on the Game Boy Advance or in other areas. Crash Bandicoot was always fun, but they did a remaster of that one, so I'm guessing people knew about that. It would be weird if they didn't. They remastered the damn thing. Trying to think of others, but those are the main ones that come around. Looking forward to Tempest Rising, and also just Commandos, the Commandos games. Those were really tough, actually. And also they made Desperados, which was like the Western version of it. But those were really fun. I enjoyed those a lot. Let's just get this guy down. There you go. Yeah, Commando Strike Force. Hey, Danion Nilan. I think that's what it says. Grinding out the event, have redeemed the low sat, which I wanted to sell to get a premium. Turns out it's going to be only $40. Can't even buy a premium heli with that. Well, just wait until a little bit, and it'll obviously increase. You don't have to sell it right away, as usual. But yeah, they're not going to be as crazy high as others. Shadow Tactics, true. Yeah, so when this event is over, and also when I've done with the Battle Pass, which won't be too long, like we're at like level 135 or something, I will actually be playing some other games on the Twitch channel, so if you guys have like any games from like your childhood or any games that you really enjoyed back in the day, it would be lovely hearing about them, whether it's on YouTube or Twitch. See you later, M6 Heavy. Look after yourself. Hey Scroogey, nice to see you. Is there a bug with the missiles at the moment? My NMMs don't appear to be killing anyone. I've heard something about proximity fuses being bugged. There's definitely some kind of issue with them. Because, like, I haven't heard anything about the proximity thing, but I have heard about missiles just not tracking at all, and I had a few missiles which just weren't feeling it the other day. Like AIM-9Gs and AIM-9Bs, where you would fire them, and then they just wouldn't do anything, even though they should have, you know, like, gone straight into the target. They just didn't, they just weren't vibing. It's probably the way to do it, so yeah. Saints Row and Gears of War, yeah, classics. They were great. Sad to hear about the Saints Row guys, by the way. Looks like they're done. They're shutting shop. The wrestling games from back in the day was super fun too. SmackDown. Anyone play SmackDown? That stuff was enjoyable. Yeah, I think there might be an issue with missiles right now. I just don't know what it is, because it seems to be up and down, you know. So then we have Petsa. Why Gadget ignores ground sim? Literally, the lineups haven't changed for years. I don't know. No idea. I mean, they have included it in this recent event, so, you know, progress, I suppose. I think it might just be the fact that, you know, they found what is seen as balanced, and they're just gonna go with it. You know, just like what a lot of people do. At the end of the day. AJ, stop it. Yeah, I didn't really see the Saints Row reboot. I'm sure it was pretty average. I thought Saints Row 4 was terrible. The last good Saints Row was the third one. Where the third one they just went straight wacky and ridiculous, which is what they should have done. The fourth one was just so boring to play. Because it turns out giving like unlimited superpowers is not really that fun. It gets super boring super quick. Because you can just do everything in ridiculous ways. They went a little bit too ham on that one. Spyro the Dragon, yeah, I have the remaster of that. I've never actually played it, so we're going to play that, which should be fun. So then we have Elias again. Oops, there we go. Oh. When I get revenge bombed, I just laugh as I load into my fighter, usually a spit, and kill them again. Oh, God. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, some... Oh, God. Welcome to reading and streaming. So, yeah, that is something I've seen a lot of people do over the years. And, you know, it's something that we've talked about, like, when people... I never played Battle Stations Midway. When people complain about the cast stuff, there is, in a lot of areas, counters. It's just, it can feel annoying that you have to go into the counter to the counter, but it's just how the game works. Like, the only way you remove stuff like that is if you remove lineups and just people are only allowed to bring like one vehicle and then that's it. Welcome to Sim, and why it doesn't work. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's why they had to change the good old system. Yeah. Revenge Cast is quite funny, but also at the same time it's just a part of the game. And some people aren't okay with it, because as we've talked about, most people don't like being countered. But War Thunder is unfortunately full of hard counters. It's just kind of how it works. So not a lot you can do about it. It's a cool naval air combining RTS with third-person War Thunder-like action. Yeah, I've heard good things, and I think I even have some. I just, you know, haven't really played it. So then we have Mad Max Marston. The Baduka Cannon 1C, 15.5cm Swedish self-propelled artillery vehicle in use with the Swedish Army from 1967 to 2003, BR 7.0, ha 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 ha. Oh, we doing the historical matchmaking thing again? Yeah, historical matchmaking doesn't work. Pretty much as simple as that. Different nations are at different levels of technological prowess at different times in their history. Different nations create different things for different reasons. So, there you go. That's about it, bro. Don't know what else to say, man. Especially using Sweden as the example. Because there's so many Swedish vehicles that would be completely out of their depth if they actually had historical matchmaking. But yeah. Alright, there you go. Another dude's dead. Just caning with the good old SKR. It's a bit of a rude vehicle, this one. It works very well. So then we have the next one, which is not my original handle. Well, that begs the question. What happened to your original handle? Who did you annoy? The VDAR isn't healthy for the game, at least not its current BR, and it's changing ASAP. Healthy. Now that's an interesting word. Oh, 2 seconds. Alright, I'll be back in 2 seconds. I just gotta sort something out. Oh, alright, sorry, I'm back. Just had to sort something out, my bad. Duty calls. There we go. But yeah, so when it comes to these things, historical matchmaking in general, it's just I've made plenty of videos on it at this point. Luckily it's something that has gone out of the general thought process of most people, because we've been able to kind of show just through examples, which is always the most powerful way of kind of showing things to individuals, that it just doesn't work. Like it's not something that is tenable, because of the whole like setup. Like it's not something that works for anybody. You know, you just have an incredibly imbalanced game. And the only time games like that work is when it's a single player experience, and, well, you can abuse the AI, is probably the best way of putting it. So yeah, not grand. So we have Papa Stalin. Says, how can I shoot? Oh, this guy turned me around. Hello, Tech and Chat. Monet accepts the L as TEC opinion, the very successful boycott. Oh, on the... I mean, at the end of the day, like... the problem with boycotts like that is the fact that it's impossible to be able to... It's impossible to actually get proper, what we would class as demands through, because it doesn't have any leaders, and usually the people who are picked as leaders are individuals who are terrible at leading, because they're the ones who want to be leaders, and the people that you don't want as leaders are the people who want to do it, right? And in something which is like super quickly put together, which that was, you just had a bunch of people who were at the head of it, which were awful, and just did not know what they were doing, or abused the situation, or just even abused community members, or just straight up lied to people. And whenever you have, like, situations like that, you're always going to have those types of people. So it was just not good, but at the same time, I'm sure it is something that is seen as positive, because it did at least contribute to the change that we saw going forward with War Thunder, which I think is positive for most people, because most people wanted a change. Obviously, it's very hard to disagree with what Gaijin put out there, right? Like when it comes to the boycott, or not the boycott, but like the changes that they brought in. And I think overall, like, even though it didn't, the boycott didn't exist in its way. Like there's 160,000 people playing now. There was 200,000 people playing yesterday. If you have a look at like the Steam charts, you know, which is the one that everybody points to, like the simple fact is the amount of players that are now playing, it's followed the same trend that every year has done. So, you know, it's a little bit more extreme this year because it got like 100,000 players, right? But even in September for War Thunder now, there was 100,000 players playing. If we have a look at last year, it was 81,000. If we have a look at July this year, it was 73,000. If we look at July last year, it was 66,000. So there are still more people playing, even just on Steam than there was previously, even the last year. And the trends that we've seen follow that. So even though it didn't change the amount of people playing or the amount of people that, you know, were around, so the boycott part of it didn't work, what it did show is that, you know, first of all, Gaijin would listen to some changes and were working on stuff and just kind of brought it forward, which was nice. And at the same time, it meant that people who wanted to be heard were heard, and that's what you want in a situation like that. So was the boycott successful? No, because nobody actually boycotted it, but did it enact changes which were positive for the community as part of like the overall structure? Yes. So it's very interesting to kind of like, you know, have a look at and sort it all out. Oh my god. Okay. SKR time. So it's a weird one when you think about it. Oh, I'm getting beaten up by SKRs. Nice. But yeah. Hey Captain Brody, nice to see you. Then we have 3mom8411. Why do you use the most rancid lineups? I don't know. Do I? I think my lineups are pretty good. The only things that I ever get critiqued on when it comes to my lineups are that I only bring like 3 ground vehicles and 2 air vehicles in most things, or 3 naval and 2 air. But I think my lineups are fine. Like everybody has their own like play styles, the way that they do stuff. I don't always like playing just meta things. Most of the time when I'm playing War Thunder, what I'm actually focusing on is not grinding out or playing the meta stuff. Like obviously right now I am, because we're doing the event and I'm doing the tech talk at the same time. But most of the time it's actually just like grinding out vehicles. So for example, I wanted to grind out the BTR for the Hungarians. Now, there literally isn't a lineup for that thing, so it has to be a rancid lineup. So, if you ever see me play, like, a pretty crap lineup, or anything which is similar to that, it is honestly because of the fact that I'm probably grinding out a vehicle, which is something I do quite a lot. Like, most of the time I'm playing War Thunder, I'm not playing it to, you know, play the best stuff. I'm playing War Thunder to try and enjoy you know, spading a vehicle and trying to understand how it works, you know, in the grand scheme of things. So that's usually what goes on. Hey Imres, nice to see you. I see you too, Florek, and also Snowfington. Hopefully you're doing well. Yeah, the SKR is pretty strong. It's quite a fun vehicle. Glad you enjoy it too. Right, so that's the last question in the comments of the tech talk. Is there any questions from the Twitch chat that you want to go through? So we can kind of... What is going on? Oh my god. Rude. Like, is there anything that people have questions on when it comes to the events or when it comes to anything going on? So we can just kind of chill and, you know, play a bit. It's been nice over this event period, like spading a bunch of different stuff and just having a decent time. Hey, you got your first jet? Nice. Which one did you get? Thoughts on mustard? I really like Dijon mustard. I like the kick it gives a lot of stuff. I usually add it to pork and beef quite a massive amount. I don't like the standard mustard. I don't know what you class it as. But yeah, Dijon is really good. I'm a big fan of Dijon. No questions, but I think it's funny now that I'm trying to shoot down planes for the battle pass and not spawning. Yeah, I had an issue with that with the WZ, man. Like it is kind of annoying when that happens. Luckily, for me, I'm just grinding out the other event now. Opinion on Yorkshire pudding? I like Yorkshire pudding. It tastes good. It's really easy to make. Gordon Ramsay actually did a really good video on Yorkshire pudding and how to make it, because I do see a lot of people kind of screw it up, which sucks, because it is a pretty simple thing to sort out. Like you need to get the fat boy puddings as well. You can't be doing with these like midget puddings that people do. There's the pub next to my father's house. They do like a Yorkshire pudding. They do like a Yorkshire pudding thing, like a setup, and it takes up the whole plate, which is quite nice. Is standard mustard brown mustard or yellow mustard? Yellow mustard, I would say. You bought the J7D and the ZTZ96? Nice. Happy China Sale Day. Happy China Propaganda Day as well. What a video, eh? The damn J7s with their aspides, and somebody just somehow nicked a Vanguard, as you do. Somebody somehow nicked a British nuclear submarine. Crazy. Yeah, so I think that'll be the end of the tech talk. It was a good one this time. A lot of cool stuff we talked about, and obviously just generally grinding the event at the same time. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully, if you want questions answered next week, then obviously make sure to stick them in, and then we can kind of go from there. Nice to see you, Rusty Sniper. Hopefully you're doing good. But look after yourselves. Peace be with you as always. See you next time. Bye-bye.